Zhu faces an early challenge in the Ruy Lopez Open, as Muzychuk sets the tone in Fide Women's Grand Prix to lakhs 2425 Austria Round 2. On e4. On e5. Knight f3. Threatening knight takes e5. Knight c6. Bishop b5. On a6. Threatening pawn takes b5. Bishop a4 played by Muzychuk. Knight f6. King castled kingside. We are now in the Ruy Lopez Open. Muzychuk is looking to play. Bishop takes c6. Pawn takes c6. Knight takes e5 and seizes the initiative. Knight takes e4 played by Zhu. Rook e1. Threatening rook takes e4. Knight c5 played by Zhu. Threatening knight takes a4. Bishop takes c6 played by Muzychuk. Pawn takes c6. Knight takes e5. Bishop e7. On d4. Muzychuk's idea is to play Queen f3. Bishop e6. Pawn takes c5 and establish a winning position. Knight e6 played by Zhu. Threatening queen takes d4. Bishop e3 played by Muzychuk. King castled kingside. On c4. Rook e8. Knight c3. On f6. Threatening pawn takes e5. Knight f3 played by Muzychuk. Knight f8. Queen b3. Bishop g4. Knight d2. Queen d7. On d5 it is novelty move. Queen c8. Knight de4. Bishop h5. Pawn takes c6. Pawn takes c6. Bishop c5. Threatening bishop takes e7. Bishop takes c5 played by Zhu. Knight takes c5. Queen f5. Threatening queen takes c5. Knight 5 e4 played by Muzychuk. Queen e5. Zhu wants to play. On f5. Knight d2. Queen takes e1 check. Rook takes e1. Rook takes e1 check and secure a stronghold in the game. On h3 played by Muzychuk. Muzychuk intends to play Knight g3. Queen takes e1 check. Rook takes e1. Rook takes e1 check. King h2. Bishop g6. Queen b7. Rook d8. Queen takes c7 and secure a stronghold in the game. Rook a b8 played by Zhu. Threatening rook takes b3. Queen a3 played by Muzychuk. Bishop f7. Rook e3. Bishop takes c4. Rook a e1. Muzychuk is planning to play Knight d2. Queen takes e3. Rook takes e3. Rook takes e3. Pawn takes e3 and increase their advantage significantly. Queen h5 played by Zhu. Pawn b3. Threatening pawn takes c4. Bishop d5 played by Zhu. Queen takes a6. Queen f7. Queen e2. Muzychuk might go for Knight takes f6 check. Queen takes f6. Knight takes d5. Pawn takes d5. Rook takes e8. Rook takes e8. Queen takes e8 and gain a significant edge. Rook e5 played by Zhu. Pawn f4. Threatening pawn takes e5. Rook e6 played by Zhu. Knight c5. Threatening knight takes e6. Rook takes e3 played by Zhu. Queen takes e3. Pawn h5. Queen e7. Knight g6. Queen takes f7 check. King takes f7. Knight takes d5. Pawn takes d5. Knight d3. Knight e7. King f2. Pawn c6. Pawn g4. Pawn takes g4. Pawn takes g4. Rook b6. King e3. Muzychuk is preparing to play. King d4. Rook b5. Pawn b4. Pawn c5 check. Pawn takes c5 and put immense pressure on the opponent. King e6 played by Zhu. King d2 check. King d6. Pawn f5. Knight g8. Rook e6 check. King c7. King c3. Rook b7. Knight b4. Threatening rook takes c6 check. King d7 played by Zhu. Knight a6. Rook a7. Knight c5 check. King c7. Pawn a4. Muzychuk wants to play. Pawn b4. Rook a8. Pawn b5. Pawn takes b5. Pawn takes b5. King d8. Pawn b6 and seize the initiative. Knight h6 played by Zhu. Rook e7 check. King b8. Rook e8 check. King c7. Rook e7 check. King b8. Rook e8 check. King c7. King d4. Knight takes g4. Rook e7 check. King b8. Rook e8 check. King c7. Rook e7 check. King b8. Knight d7 check. King c8. Threatening rook takes d7. Rook takes g7 played by Muzychuk. Knight h6. Knight b6 check. King b8. Knight d7 check. King c8. Knight b6 check. King b8. Rook takes a7. King takes a7. Knight c8 check. King b7. Knight d6 check. King c7. Threatening king takes d6. King c5 played by Muzychuk. Muzychuk is looking to play. Pawn a5. Knight g8. Pawn a6. King b8. King b6. Knight e7. Pawn a7 check. King a8. Knight e8 and gain a significant edge. Pawn d4 played by Zhu. Knight e8 check. King d8. Threatening king takes e8. Knight takes f6 played by Muzychuk. Knight takes f5. Knight e4. Threatening king takes c6. King c7 played by Zhu. Knight f2. Knight g7. King takes d4. Knight e6 check. King c4. Knight d3. Knight c7. On b4. Knight e6. Knight c5. Threatening knight takes e6. Knight c7 played by Zhu. Knight d7 check. King a7. Knight e5. Threatening knight takes c6 check. King b6 played by Zhu. Knight f7. Knight e6. Knight d6. King c7. Knight f5. Knight d6. King c7. Knight e4. On a5 check. King a7. Knight c5. Threatening knight takes e6. Knight c7 played by Zhu. King d4. Knight b5 check. King e5 stop here and find the strongest move for Zhu. King b8 is the right idea because Knight e6. King b7. Knight c5 check. King c7. King e4. King d6 position is equal. Let's analyze the main line. King e5. Knight a3 severely weakens the position played by Zhu. King d6. Threatening king takes c6. Knight c2 played by Zhu. Knight d3. Threatening king takes c6. King b7 played by Zhu. King c5. Muzychuk is aiming to play Knight e5. Knight a1. Knight takes c6 and establish a winning position. King a6 played by Zhu. Knight e5. Knight a1. Knight takes c6. Knight b3 check. King c4. Knight d2 check. King d3. Threatening king takes d2. Knight f3 played by Zhu. Knight d4. Knight e5 check. King c3. Knight f7. King b3. Knight d6. King a4. Muzychuk dominated and took the game.